I was the chief spokesperson for the government during COVID, and COVID was raging. Every day, my job was to stand in front of a bevy of camera and speak for 30 minutes to the people of Odisha on what's going on. And these are days of the lockdown, complete chaos. You have only so much information. You have only so much knowledge on this subject. You can't mislead. You are talking on behalf of the government there. I said, so much chaos. So she gently told me, she said, Dad, your job is to float over the chaos. So my job as a leader has to be to float above the chaos. Mindtree was built, we were riding on two waves. One was the telecommunication wave and the other was the e-commerce wave. But Mindtree was conceived as a next generation company because it was breaking free from legacy organizations running legacy systems and so on. When the IBM PC was launched, Apple carried a one-page advertisement it could ill afford in Wall Street Journal, and it said IBM is entering the personal computer business, and there was a blank page at the bottom in small letters. It said, 𝗿𝗵𝗱𝗶 say welcome. With artificial intelligence, there's no adoption. That word has been substituted by the word dispersion. Adoption is optional. You choose to adopt or not to adopt. The moment it's dispersion, it touches everything. You no longer have the option to be part of it or not be a part of it. Today, in India, regional language processing has become a reality.
Absolutely.
Today in India, AI engines are processing English.
Yep.
Okay, not English, but English.
AI to me is more like electricity. Invisible but powers everything.
Yeah.
Today we don't really see where all, but I think everything around us is diffused.
But one jargon that people continuously use and it's misused, it's misunderstood, is this word called mentor and mentoring. One of the most involved things in the world. Very slow acting, they take a long time. They demand a lot of commitment from both sides. I believe that risk is the most overrated idea, and it is an idea with which people like you and I cling on to. You look at the idea of entrepreneurship by educated people, experienced people. What risk are they taking? It'll fail. You'll go back to get a job. You don't get a job, you'll do something else. If you are driven by short-term considerations, don't pretend that you are building institutions. Mindtree was just like 6 or 8 months, and the e-commerce boom was like today's AI impetus. Literally every third day, a bunch of smart, good-looking people wearing jackets would descend from New York and London and wherever else and say, let's do a roll-up. What's a roll-up? They will fund Mindtree, and Mindtree will acquire company A, B, and C. And even before Mindtree itself has built a revenue, suddenly you build a valuation.
Hi Subroto, welcome to Clearing the Blur.
Happy to be here.
Welcome, Subroto. It's been a long wait for me to have this conversation with you, and I'm super excited about this.
First of all, you have built a great organization.
Thank you.
And, I hear good things about the work that you do, and I hear good things about the conversations that you have been having with your guests so far. So it's a pleasure and privilege to be with both of you this morning.
Thank you so much.
Likewise. And I think every conversation is unique with unique insights, but we have a ritual and we start before the topical discussion with a rapid fire. So here is a rapid fire for you. Go kiss the world. If you had to add one line to that now, what would that be?
I won't add any line to that. There's a reason for it. These were the last words my mother told me. I used to be in the US at that time, working for Wipro. My mother, she was blind. She was in her late, in her late 70s, early 80s, and she had a stroke. So she was lying in a hospital bed. I was called from US. I came to see her, and I was there for a week, 10 days. She was not getting better. And on the day that I was taking a flight out, I went to the hospital where she was, and she was lying there motionless, barely aware, and I kissed her forehead to say goodbye. And in a garbled voice, she said, "Why are you kissing me?" So I'm her last born, and I've always been playful with her. So I said, "Why not?" So to that, she said, "Go kiss the world."
Wow.
And I have not, I have not met her after that. I have not heard her mortal voice after that. So those words are very special to me, and they resonated with literally millions of people who read the book Go Kiss the World. It's probably one of the most translated non-fictions in India. She don't add anything to that.
For
So
sure.
emotional, so powerful and impactful, truly.
Powerful story. We'll move on to the next question. What's the proudest day of your public service journey?
Me and a few colleagues in the government were instrumental in ideating the concept of the WorldSkills Center. It's a mammoth platform for producing people who are good for the world. And the WorldSkills Center was set up in collaboration with the ITS, which is an organization of the government of Singapore. So after I was gone, the Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi, visited some Singapore companies where ITs, was doing an extended training for some of the students of the WorldSkills Center. Mm-hmm. And these students were interning there with the Singapore companies. And the Prime Minister, along with his Singaporean counterpart, met those students, and in a very touching moment, he kept his hand on the forehead of an Odia girl, whose name is 𝗵𝗵𝘃𝗵𝗶, who came from nowhere into the WorldSkills Center, trained for a year, was interning in Singapore, and the visiting Prime Minister put his hand on her forehead. And in that one gesture, he was putting his hand on the forehead of millions of girls like her. Because in this country, we feel that girls are equal to soft drinks. And here was a girl who was getting trained to make a difference to trades which were hitherto reserved only for boys. Mm. So in that 𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗵𝗃 moment, that picture was the ultimate reward that I got for my work. And that was the highest point. But I must tell you, there were everyday high points. Because as the name of my book suggests, The Day the Chariot Moved, once the chariot moves, it's a story of ordinary people who rise to the occasion. They pull the chariot. They become one with the chariot. They give the energy to the chariot, and the chariot gives them the purpose. Along the way, every day, I met unusual people, young people, who want to be something. They want to break through the cloud. And each story became a high point for me.
Inspirational, right?
Absolutely. I think every experience of yours is a story worth narrating. And
it's amazing how you pick some stories like this. Muni Tiga, I've heard about that story of a tribal girl who became a loco pilot.
Yeah. And she became iconic, and she became a role model among role models for a transformative journey, what skill can do to a tribal girl. And again, one of the high points, you talked about high points, is last Republic Day, there was a tableau on women in transportation in Bhubaneswar. And there was a tableau where women in transportation was being depicted, and 𝗵𝗵𝘁 was chosen to do the salute in the march past.
Awesome.
And it gave me goosebumps. So thanks for reminding me of her.
No, I think every such story probably leads the whole generation and I think motivates them to break the shackles. So absolutely. I think the next is on the next Mindtree moment for India's youth. If there is one, where would that come from, or what field will that emerge out of?
It is AI, and it will create unusual new opportunities. It is creating unusual new opportunities. And if I were to start all over again, then I would do that.
Focus on AI.
Because when Mindtree was built, we were riding on two waves. One was the telecommunication wave, and the other was the e-commerce wave. It's true that soon after the telecommunication wave actually crashed, and we still were riding on the internet wave, which was sometimes synonymous with the e-commerce wave. But because 911 happened, that also crashed for some time. But Mindtree was conceived as a next generation company because it was breaking free from legacy organizations running legacy systems and so on. So today we use the word born digital. So we are born internet, and we're children of disruption at a level of technology, at a level of business practices, as well as a level of culture. So given that even today, if Mindtree were to start all over again, she will ride the high tide of disruption. I will tell you something that keeps occurring to my mind. When I was growing up in the world of technology, Apple was just an outlier company. It was trying to break new ground, while there were traditional players like the IBMs of the world. With the IBM PC, so much so that when the IBM PC was launched, Apple carried a one-page advertisement it could ill afford in Wall Street Journal, and it said, "We have heard something like this. We have heard IBM is entering the personal computer business." And there was a blank page at the bottom in small letters. It said, "𝗿𝗵𝗱𝗁 say welcome." It's a very powerful message.
Yeah.
Now, from that point onwards, Apple and Steve Jobs continued to be the person who symbolized the idea of adoption. Technology's speed, technology's success was equal to the word adoption. With artificial intelligence, there's no adoption. That word has been substituted by the word dispersion. Adoption is optional. You choose to adopt or not to adopt. Okay? The moment it's dispersion, it touches everything. You no longer have the option to be part of it or not be a part of it. So when you look at the idea of adoption, the kind of disruption, and you use the word disruption, the kind of disruption that comes associated with the adoption is limited. But when it is dispersed, the power and the velocity of the disruption becomes huge. It becomes, one thing leads to another. It's a tectonic shift. It's not an earthquake. Okay.
That's why it's called a civilizational shift, right?
Yes.
Like steam engines and electricity and the internet.
Yeah.
Probably this time it's much bigger and much faster.
Yeah. So many times we are actually We are abstracting things, we are aggregating things, we are using metaphors. I think the time has come to look at use cases. I use artificial intelligence every day. All the tools that are there, I use every day. I'm seeing every day new possibilities. And I'm trying to interpret those possibilities by looking at use cases of people who were disenfranchised. Okay? Up until now, when we looked at the world of technology, people often were fretting about this term called digital divide.
Yeah.
Is there a digital divide? Will it widen? Who is in charge here? What can we do about it? It's frustrating. The glass is half empty or glass is half full. But with AI, the democratization of technology will go to another level, and the digital divide will be a non-issue. I'll give you two use cases. When I was working with the government, I had a big staff, okay? And my house was 2 houses away from the capital hospital. So in the, in a Bangalore context, you think of it like Victoria Hospital. It's a public hospital. So many of my staff members would go there. At the end of the day, they will come back with a prescription. They can't read the prescription. They'll give it to me, okay? I cannot read half of it. I don't understand why the doctor has prescribed so-and-so antibiotic. So what do? I actually call my doctor friends, take a WhatsApp picture and say, can you interpret this prescription? So I will explain it to this half-literate person who's part of my staff. Now, with artificial intelligence, today, that person can actually upload that prescription.
Yeah.
And today, artificial intelligence tools are available to actually tell that person that this is the medicine that has been prescribed. These are the contraindications which the doctor didn't explain to you. And no, it's not going to be in English. Today, in India, regional language processing has become a reality.
Absolutely.
Today in India, AI engines are processing English.
Yep.
Okay, not English, but English. And within 2026, the AI engines here will actually in speech speak to this person who goes to a Victoria hospital or a capital hospital in Odisha and doesn't know what to do with that prescription. Similarly, if you look at the 70-year-old Tata or 80-year-old Tata, grandpa, okay, who today is basically barely using the WhatsApp, right? So Tata will actually speak in his language to AI, and AI will tell Tata, talk to Tata. Okay. So if you look at the use cases of the grandpa, use cases of the people who have access to the government services, but the access stops at a certain point because technology doesn't speak to them. All that will go away.
Absolutely. I think I can't agree more. I mean, as you were speaking, it just reminded me, AI to me is more like electricity. Invisible, but powers everything. Today, we don't really see where all, but I think everything around us
is diffused, right?
Yeah, but electricity is invisible. AI
is
going to increasingly be visible.
But I'm saying it's also getting embedded into
in
a lot
everything.
of things what
Yes,
we do.
yes.
So we won't see it, but it will end up powering, like you said. I mean, today, like the search is powered by AI, but we say Google has probably lost that race, but today Gemini has
brought them back,
more stronger by embedding it within everything they do, or recommendation engines.
So at the same time, I think a lot of people, are trivializing AI today, and every other, even the roadside vendor who is selling tea is also saying, 𝗕𝗟𝗨𝗥. Okay. Everybody is AI today. So these are trivializing.
Yeah.
Okay. You go to any company's website today, they will say that, they almost tell you that they are they have the Holy Grail and they are the most legitimate children of this AI God. And they don't know what they're talking about. But all that will get clarified and, the blur will be clear.
Absolutely, and I think it's so well explained why it was a rapid fire. But
I'll come back to the rapid fire question.
A lot of interesting bites from you on
Sure.
this. Yeah, Rajiv.
So what's the one leadership jargon people often misunderstand?
In my long innings in the corporate sector, the corporate sector has many jargons, okay? But one jargon that people continuously use and it's misused, it's misunderstood, is this word called mentor and mentoring, okay? So every other HR company will tell that, we will produce mentors. And, every other time somebody would walk up to me and say, will you become my mentor? We trivialize that because mentor and mentoring are one of the most involved things in the world. Very slow acting, they take a long time, they demand a lot of commitment from both sides. I applied my mind to it during my early days of Mindtree. And I researched where did this word actually come from. It comes from Greek mythology. And when the Trojan War was being fought, the king is going away and the vulnerable prince, okay? In olden days, when a king would go away, the enemies would be, they will kill the prince. So the lineage stops there and the empire is broken. So the king prays and Athena, the goddess, actually arrives as half human and half goddess to protect the young prince till such time that the king comes back. Okay? So she is both a divine protection and also a human form so that deep advice is made available and protection is given. So that is the mentor-mentee relationship. Okay? Every manager says, I'll be your mentor. And every other person says, will you make me your mentee? No, it doesn't work like that. It takes that conviction, that courage, that wisdom, that sagacity, and the capability to receive. I always say that the power to give is not the higher power. It is the power to receive, which is the higher power. So you have to have tremendous amount of the power to receive before you can get into a mentor-mentee relationship.
I like the metaphor of the gardener that you have used in the past as well, right? So the gardener goes to the plant doesn't come to the gardener. And so you have to meet them where they are.
In their time and space.
In their time and space and create the right conditions. That's all you can do. And the growth is in their hands.
Yeah.
So moving on, I think you went through a very different journey over the last decade. So what is that one thing you have unlearned in the last decade?
That you're not in charge.
Awesome.
We fret about being in charge. We have illusions about being in charge. We want to be in charge. But truth be told, nobody is in charge. Nobody is in charge. So you need to absolve yourself. You need to actually shake it off. And you need to act without the burden of trying to be in charge. Nobody's in charge.
I think I have a quote very closer to what you just said, that life is what happens to you when you are busy making other plans.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you end up, and that's where the serendipity and a lot of other things they come along.
Awesome. That was a wonderful rapid fire and not so rapid fire as well, but amazingly insightful. Thank you so much for this. Now we'll move to a more detailed discussion. So you often said your first leadership lessons came not from the boardroom, but from government quarters in 𝗂𝗵𝗄𝗃. Your father refused to misuse public resources, and your mother taught you to leave every place more beautiful than you found it. I think that's a powerful, powerful line, and I think I can already tell your mother has played a big role, not just in the title of your book, but living and life philosophy. Can you...
Both parents, actually.
Sure.
Both parents. So my father was the district employment officer in this district, which is a mountainous district, this tribal district even today. It is one of the lesser developed districts in the state of Odisha and certainly the country. So he was a district employment officer and he used to walk to the office and come back. And one day, a brand new Jeep arrived. And the Jeep used to be parked in the house. But I never saw father actually taking the Jeep to the office. I was 5 years old at that time. So you want to see your father, in that Jeep driving to office. So I said, why aren't you taking the Jeep? So he said, look, the government has not given me the Jeep to go to my office. The Jeep has been given to me so that I can go to inaccessible places of the district where there's no public transport. Buses don't go. So it's meant for the district employment officer to tour the district. It's not meant for me to go to
For
office.
daily use, yep.
So I wanted to, then the chance to get a ride was, illusory. And so the only time that I could then sit on the Jeep was when he was not around and the Jeep was stationary. Okay. So in that transaction, my father actually clarified to me something which stayed with me all my life. And that is the idea of intended purpose. What was the intended purpose of that resource? The moment a CEO actually thinks about the corporate resources available, and all that person has to do is to step back and say, was it intended for my use, my joy, my pleasure, okay, my power, or was it intended for something else? So those are the things that got clarified. With my mother, my father was a government servant, so every 2-3 years you'd get transferred. Sometimes in less than a year would get transferred. And you get into a dilapidated government quarter. There's little space around that quarter, and my mother would grow a little garden around. And just as the flowers would come, the birds would bloom, and the little vegetables would show up, it was time for moving on. So a lot of neighbors would ask her, why are you doing these futile things? So to that she would say, look, my job is to grow a garden even if you throw me in a desert. My job is not to eat the produce. My job is to grow the garden. And my job is to leave whatever I have received in better condition. So if the government quarter was given to my father, it was dilapidated. Her job was to, when she moves on, for the next person to actually inherit that house in better condition than what she had inherited. So to me, it was a very profound idea, because in life, every day we are inheriting something, and every day we are vacating something.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm inheriting relationships, I'm vacating relationships. I'm inheriting an office, I'm vacating that office. Okay. I'm inheriting a lot of realities and vacating those realities. So each time I inherit, I accept it on an as-is basis. I don't fret, I don't whine, I don't complain. Okay. Once I have inherited that, my job is to grow a garden on it and leave it in better shape than I have inherited.
So you left a very senior role at Wipro to start Mindtree in 1999, when entrepreneurship wasn't fashionable at all, and very few people even understood what entrepreneurship means. at that moment, what did risk mean to you? Did risk even cross your mind? And if it did, then what did it mean to you? And also, what were the emotional calculus behind that leap?
So you use two words here, risk, and another very pertinent word is calculus. Okay? So I'll come to that in a while. So let's first talk about risk. I believe that risk is the most overrated idea. Mm-hmm. And it is an idea which people like you and I cling on to. And then it takes us over. Okay. So right this moment, this roof can fall.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a risk. We are sitting in Bangalore and we're sitting in Indiranagar. Try crossing the 100-feet road during the day. Okay. You are taking much bigger risk there. The risk is with your life. Okay. So you look at the idea of entrepreneurship by educated people, experienced people. What risk are they taking? It'll fail. You'll go back to get a job. You don't get a job, you'll do something else. One day, I was driving to my office and, at a busy intersection near BTM layout, as the signal changed from red to green, you see the anxiety that builds up?
Yeah, everybody wants to.
Yeah. And honking starts and
because suddenly there was commotion. And I looked out of the window and I found that a tomato cart has overturned. The tomato seller, that guy was trying to go through the traffic. Something has happened and it's overturned. And in that moment, because the motorists, are not paying attention and everybody wants to go, all his stuff is getting pulped in front of his own eyes. And the thought came to my mind as to what will happen now. Okay? This man cannot recover what he has lost. Where did he get that tomato from? Early morning, he has gone to the wholesale market, brought that, would have taken it, sold it, okay, and repaid the money he has gone from the microcredit guy or the, or the local dada who charges an exorbitant amount of interest. And today, he cannot repay that. So what will he do? He has a family to take care of. She will go back to the same man, okay, who had lent him money and pay even higher interest and get the money and start his day all over again the next morning. That man is taking the risk. What risk are you and me taking? So risk is overrated. When I worked for 10 years in Wipro, and then I had, a little saving in terms of the provident fund, in terms of gratuity, and as I look back in time, that amount came to 56 lakhs. So you put that was life-saving.
Yeah.
And that is what was put into Mindtree. And the other co-founders who similarly liquidated their life saving put that into Mindtree. What are the chances that it will become what it has become today? If Mindtree wouldn't have succeeded, we would have gone back and done something else. So the idea of risk for educated people, middle class, upper middle class, rich people, actually needs to be shunned. The only risk is physical risk. COVID was a risk.
Yeah.
Now you use the word calculus. And, you talked about emotional calculus. The word emotion, if you deconstruct that word, in its origin, in Latin, it means a feeling that moves. And motion.
Energy in motion is what they call it. Yeah.
So motion is it's a feeling that's so strong that it pushes, makes you move. So there is no calculus here. You don't calculate, okay? If your parents would have calculated, thought about a business plan, you wouldn't be here, I wouldn't be here, okay? So Big Bang is a work of passion. It's not calculus. Right?
Awesome.
Life is an act of passion. New life that comes to the planet is an act of passion, not an act of reason. So there's no emotional calculus, there's emotion. What was that emotion? When we got together as a group of founders, we said that we need to create a company that will basically deliver the following. Number one, it will do aspirational work. Number two, it will do shared wealth creation. And number three, it will build a heart where it will be socially connected. Okay? So we said aspirational work, not just any other work. Second, as you do aspirational work, you will create wealth, and that wealth must not be actually for the purpose of the founders who are liquidating their life saving to build the company. It must, actually, money is a regenerative resource, and it must be dispersed. And third is you build a company which got a social conscience. So those three then coagulate to become the purpose, and you are the one who are chosen to deliver on it. So there's no calculus, there's only emotion, a very strong emotion.
But emotion with a much higher purpose, I would say, as to why you started and what you wanted to achieve. And that much money was not the purpose, but money was the resource that lets you deliver the purpose. Awesome.
It's a force of good.
Yeah. Wow.
So double clicking on that, right? High performance entrepreneurship, as you've written, is about ambition and long view of time. Right, so today entrepreneurs and founders who are probably watching this show, they want returns quickly, and they probably have some ambition. So, and there are short-term pressures as well, basically valuation, timing. There's so much that gets into the calculation of this, right? So what will be your advice for this?
I won't have any advice because it's a choice people make.
Sure.
The only thing I want to remind is that every choice has its consequences. So if you are driven by short-term considerations, don't pretend that you are building institutions.
Right.
Okay. So if you, for example, when we were building Mindtree, for example, Mindtree was just like 6 or 8 months, and the e-commerce boom was like today's AI
Right.
impetus. So every third day, literally every third day, a bunch of smart, good-looking people wearing jackets would descend from New York and London and wherever else and say, let's do a roll-up. What's a roll-up? They will fund Mindtree, and Mindtree will acquire company A, B, and C. And even before Mindtree itself has built a revenue, suddenly you build a valuation, because now, you have that company has raised $20 million. They don't know what to do with it. That company is breaking apart because the founders are falling all over the place. That company, something else is happening. So we'll all roll up, okay? And let's take the company public. So it was not, I would say it was not tempting for a fleeting moment. But then we go back to that purpose and why you're born. And then you say, am I being true to that purpose? If my purpose needs me to take a long view of time, then I have to practice postponed gratification. But if my purpose is in that moment to get rich quick, no problems, get rich quick. You cheat the venture capitalist cheats the fund manager, who cheats the investor, okay? And that's fine. And everybody's short-circuiting somebody else. But don't have pretense that you're building a company for the long haul. And I talked about consequences. At night, in the daytime, you have told your employees in the cafeteria that we are building a great company. I want your blood, sweat, and tears. And people are agog, and they think that, you are God's specially chosen one, and you are this charismatic, energetic leader, and they pledge their youth and their life and everything else to you. At night, you're taking phone calls from the guy who says, let's do a roll-up. And you think nobody's listening. I believe that every system is a living thing, and it has a soul, and it's listening. So when you are doing that nightly conversation, and you are willing to, sell the company and move on, you think that the guy who serves coffee and tea in your office doesn't know, but that person knows. So that system matches your infidelity. And then don't fret about the fact that every third day, guys come and say, I'm getting a 200% jump because that other guy is offering me a job, and which is far more cool, and I'm getting 200% jump and I'm going away. So matching your infidelity. So I cannot have dual standards and not quote dual standards. So if you're building a company with a very clear goal that in 18 months you will not be around, don't expect fancy things like loyalty and fancy things like commitment and stuff like that. The system is going to respond to you adequately. Okay? So make your choices. Choose your consequences. Pause. Don't shoot before you take aim. Okay? And it's one life.
Awesome.
I think purpose, ethics, integrity, I think these ingredients you cannot go back and refresh if you don't get it right when you are at the beginning. And I think this is exactly what I keep seeing around happens when companies lose their purpose, or somewhere around the time they are successful on top, but then you start realizing that gradually there are some invisible things happens initially, and then one day it just becomes
small thing.
Absolutely.
Let me do this small thing, nobody's watching.
Yes.
Okay? When I become big, I will actually practice the good stuff. Right now, it is about hustle.
And work. Yes, absolutely. And I think that's where I will take the next question too. Because like you just explained, Mindtree was designed around the culture of feelings and not contracts. Also, I think very early on when you built, you removed all those symbols of separate lifts, toilets, executive versus others. I think this was before even the culture of flat organizations started in India. And I think the question is, when you did all this, how did you institutionalize something as intangible as feeling in a large organization? Because when the organizations are small, people are closer to the founder, you have core group, that's easy. But I think as you start scaling up, I think getting that purpose and feeling, and also how did you learn about the equality from that experiment? About the equality, treating everyone at the same, like as I mentioned, there were no separate lefts, no separate privileges. So everybody felt like you come in the organization, we are driven with a common purpose, you have the feeling for the organization, and you are all equal.
A lot of the influences that worked on me personally, among them was, the influence of Azim Premji. I worked for Wipro for 10 years, and I had the privilege of actually reporting directly to him. Every day you learned from him the idea of equality. So Premji never wrote a line of code, but he surrounded himself with outstanding people, okay, who in many ways knew more than he did. And they worked for him and had loyalty for him because he treated them as equals. So much so that you could not only disagree, you could raise his voice, you could question him. People questioned him every other day, relentlessly. Many times, they were hurtful. Looking back, there were occasions where I was hurtful to him. So we were raised in a culture which said that the person who knows more, the person who is doing the thing on the ground, is the person who leads. It doesn't matter, whether you own the company, don't own the company, you're junior, senior, whatever it is. So those 10 years actually deeply influenced me. So when we started Mindtree, even before the business plan was written, the co-founders sat together and we said, what is going to be the DNA of this company? And we, after a lot of debate, we said that DNA will be three things: imagination, action, and joy. So anybody in Mindtree, any moment in Mindtree, any act in Mindtree has to be driven by imagination, action, and joy. Imagination because, if you want to build innovation, innovation is a byproduct of imagination. You have to imagine before you innovate.
Right.
A lot of people can imagine, but they don't act on it. Okay? And hence the act. A lot of people have imagination and they will act, but they will not smile. They don't have a sense of joy. So we said this is going to be the DNA of the company. And from that, we said the company will have a value system, which is said is a function of caring, learning, achieving, sharing, and social sensitivity. So what excited us every day is not the idea of hierarchy. Okay? Because if you build hierarchy, then the value system, is very difficult to be internalized. And the DNA of imagination, action, and joy does not lend itself to the idea of hierarchy, because you cannot force somebody to have joy, can you? You cannot have a diktat, or you cannot have a carrot in front of your employee and say, I want you to imagine, this is Imagination Week. Not going to work. So, where is it that you can build imagination, action, and joy? You can build it in a place where it is not driven by hierarchy, but it is driven by heteroarchy. Heteroarchy is the opposite of hierarchy. In a heteroarchy, if you, for example, you go to a typical company or a non-company organization, and you say, tell me about how you run your business, and they will show you the org chart. Okay? The org chart has designations and lines, dotted lines, strong lines. But an organization is not a hierarchy. Organization is not that org chart. Organization is a white space. In that org chart that you're showing is a white space. So the organization is a place where people thrive in those white spaces. And the job of leadership is to create more white spaces. So once you do that, the rest just falls into place, but not overnight, not without conflict, not without ideologies clashing, not without value transgressions. But in those moments, the people are watching. As I told you earlier, the system has a soul, and that soul is listening.
But it doesn't set in like that, right? I think, I know in the hindsight you did that, but I'm sure that's why I used the word experiment, because while the vision was clear, that this is how you want the firm to be, but I'm sure translating that into how it finally rolls out, how people take it, do they really feel the way you have set out? Because 3 words that you used, and then it was playing in my mind as you were speaking, that there's a head which is imagination, there's a hand which is action, and then there's a heart. So connecting all the 3 H as you build along, easily said, but I think it's very difficult to put together.
Yeah, it is difficult. Who said it's easy? And if it was not difficult, then was the...
I just found it easy to put these 3 H as you were speaking.
Yeah.
But I know it's really tough. Otherwise, many other organizations would go.
You think parenting is easy? You have kids, right?
Nothing is easy. But yeah.
You think marriage is easy? You think friendship is easy?
No,
You think a living is easy? Nothing beautiful in the world is easy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Yeah, butterfly comes out from a caterpillar with a lot of difficulty.
Nothing is easy.
Yes. So in your book, the Day the Chariot Moved, beautiful title, by the way. It captures 8 years of transformation, right, that you led in Odisha. You begin the book by saying, 3,000 kilometer journey across 30 districts, right, and you encountered a lot of inspiring people. What did you learn from those interactions? Was there a surprise, moving from Bangalore to this place? What were some aha moments for you? And about the book itself, what was the inspiration for you to write this book, and why now?
Well, I think it'll keep us here for next 60 minutes. So
Make this a rapid fire.
human transformation is not about rapid fire. It's slow cooking. Okay. So to your first point, when I took on this assignment at the invitation of the then Chief Minister, it was a crossover moment. I was leaving behind 40 years of work in the corporate sector to go into something, you talked about risk earlier, go into something that, I had no experience of. I didn't ever work in the world of skill development. With that skill development is not the fancy stuff that IT companies talk about.
Right.
It's skill development of mostly school dropouts and ITI kids and polytechnic kids and so on. So I told the Chief Minister that the first 30 days, he will not see me because Odisha has 30 districts. And I said, I want to go by road to all 30 districts in 30 days and see what's happening on the ground. And it was the peak of summer. The mercury was hitting like 47, 48 degrees. I covered 3,000 kilometers, which, just to give you a sense, the length of India is 3,000 kilometers. Okay? And the breadth of India is also close to 3,000 kilometers. So that's how much I traveled. So each day actually brought me up close to Bharat, that is India. Okay? I saw real people. I saw real issues. I saw real problems. And I saw real opportunities. So every day brought a, low and a high. But, what did I see? First and foremost, I saw that in our country, we don't respect skilled people. We have respect for white-collar people. We don't respect the Uber driver. We don't respect the plumber, the carpenter, the electrician. Number one, we don't respect them. Number two, they're paid abysmal wages. And that is the reason that skill is not aspirational in this country. Then I realized that there's one of the biggest problems that we have is information asymmetry. You have built a career, you have built a company because you had access to information. You go to a village and talk to an 8th class student or a 9th class, 10th class student. That person, that individual doesn't know what opportunities exist. The teacher does not know. So if you cannot connect them, the government has an enormous amount of infrastructure in the last 70, 80 years. The private sector needs people. Right? There are opportunities everywhere because we are headlong into building India 2047. But connecting people with opportunities is a huge problem.
Right.
Everywhere there's information asymmetry. So skills are non-aspirational, wages are depressed. 96% of jobs or work, not jobs, work or employment in India are the unorganized sector.
Right.
There's no payroll, no career development, no sustainable wages, none of this stuff. So all those things, and of course there's gender issue. And then I discovered words that I didn't know existed in all the years that I was in the information technology business, words like stunting and wasting, which basically happened because of malnutrition child in the mother's womb and in the first 8 or 10 years after being born, which actually give you an underdeveloped brain.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, India is the stunting and wasting capital of the world, right? Those realities I had no idea about. So these are things that hit me very hard. But what also was very inspiring is the fact that you go to villages, go to small town India, and you talk to an 18-year-old, that guy has dreams. That guy wants to do something. People sitting in drawing rooms with a glass of scotch in their hand, they bemoan the fact that the government is giving away doles and spoiling the culture, and people don't want to work anymore. It's not true at all. People want to work. People want to know, how to get connected to opportunities. And every day I met ordinary people who are doing extraordinary things. Well, Munitigas of the world.
Right.
Okay? Or 𝗿𝗵𝗱𝗁𝗥 of the world. And the book, The Day the Chariot Moved, every page you will meet those people. Ordinary people who are actually making an extraordinary difference to life and living. So those were the things that were very inspiring. They made me to wake up every morning and say, I need to get to work.
Awesome.
So I think, Subroto, like you said, before you went 4 decades, you have seen very closely the whole India's evolution. Obviously, Orissa gave you a very different perspective, but going back to, I think, the days right from what you saw, early typewriters to a touch screen, Wipro early computing days to Mindtree's $1 billion innovation story. And then, of course, going up to shaping a career of and the skills around Orissa. I think the world today stands at another brink of major transformation, and we have been talking about it, right? So how AI will impact be it skill, jobs, industries, while it will also create new opportunities, but it's also going to disrupt or probably change some of the things that we do around. So if you look at the rise of AI today, like you mentioned, still early days, we have to see what the full impact of this may unfold. But do you feel this is more of a deja vu or a completely different kind of disruption / diffusion, what we just spoke earlier in our conversation?
Yeah, so up until now, whatever I've seen in my life, that makes me feel like an old man. Nonetheless, up until now, my world was defined by adoption. Okay, technology was about adoption, and adoption was optional. But what we are moving into is from an era of adoption to the era of dispersion. And when there's dispersion, nothing is optional. You like it, you don't like it, you'll be submerged by it. So the only thing that is available to you is to make friends with it, to understand it, to play with it. Okay? And that will make sure that you are not left behind. The surprises will still be there, but the surprises will not be disorienting. Okay. Every day you will see a new use case and say, yes, I've seen it in my dreams last night.
And if you are starting a Mindtree today, or there are enterprises and people who are watching the show, if they have to think about either reimagining or building something afresh today, how would the purpose and culture look different in the AI era?
The purpose will be wider and broader, exponentially more beneficial, exponentially more threatening, okay? But the culture will not change. You know, the concept of culture will still be relevant because you are talking about human beings. We are not here to serve a robot. We are here to use a robot to build better healthcare system, better educational system, safer and better commute for our women. We want to use artificial intelligence, robotics, to build more value for human beings, fellow human beings, to defend them, to protect them, to safeguard them, okay? To take them to a better life than we had inherited. When you look at that construct, you realize that culture is everything. You know, if human beings are around, then we have to build on culture. Everything else will spin. But again, you have to pause and say, what is culture? Actually, culture is a child of values well conceptualized, well articulated, and well practiced. A set of values, when well articulated, well practiced, then they result in culture. Okay, culture is not an airy-fairy thing. So, the purpose of leadership is to deeply understand that culture is not at stake, culture is not getting hijacked, okay?
Yeah.
Culture was there, is there, and will be there. Greater is the impact of technology, greater is the need to be respectful, to be kind, to build organizations and institutions that create a beneficial outcome for stakeholders.
Rather, I would say culture will become even a more important in today's time when there's so much disruptive ways in which organizations have to navigate.
Yes.
That what still holds you together as you navigate.
Yeah, one of the questions I often think about is, as AI becomes more human, will humans become more human? Right, this is an opportunity for us.
Wow.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because, you know, go back to the use case of the semi-literate or the illiterate, you know, person who is going to Victoria Hospital, okay? With AI, you know, she will know the contraindications that the doctor didn't have time to explain. With AI, Tata will now actually start co-creating new fables and stories that Tata will actually read out to the grandchildren when they come back from school.
Or even AI companion, the loneliness is a big thing. I mean, you need people to talk to. And
so when it comes to AI, many leaders tend to think about AI in the form of a 5-layer cake with energy at the bottom. Then you've got the infrastructure, the chips, the models, and the use cases on top. So when you think about India's answer to AI as a nation, how to build AI as a strategic area for the country, what should be done across the 5 layers? Any bets that we need to place for the long term, be it on the use cases, I think you spoke about that, but any place else where you feel like India should build its strategic bet?
Well, I think we are the most populous nation in the world, which gives us a very unique capability, and we are diverse and we are multilingual. It gives us a special capability to lead the world with adoption and dispersion. So our ability to, technology is only as good as what it delivers. So in terms of what we do, how we experiment, how we evolve, we'll be able to put actually the application ahead of the brute force of technology. Okay. So we can give purpose to technology.
Yeah.
And this is not a rhetoric. You look at the world of microfinance, what it has done to alleviate poverty. You look at the possibility of delivering low-cost healthcare at the last mile, to the last mile. You look at taking inefficiencies out of supply chain and thereby actually providing value with the least amount of friction.
Right.
So these are things, and I can give countless such examples where India can show the world the path. India has a long way to go on the other layers, and we have to quicken the pace. We, as a nation, always run the risk of trivializing things. So without trivializing the idea of infrastructure, we need to double down. Government needs to lead the way, and private sector needs to lead the way. Private sector traditionally, unfortunately, in our country, has tended to still work on the idea of largesse. Okay? So if government wants to jump into AI, I actually want to see that in terms of large investment, and I need to quickly harvest that and convert that into billing opportunity for my company.
Yeah.
Right.
We have to work hand in hand and make some serious investments. Okay? And in this, we have to build a very long view of time. We need to understand that, there's no point in doing chest beating here, saying that we will take on the world and we are leading the world. Let's not have any mistaken notion. We are not leading the world. China is leading the world, and America is leading the world at this point in time.
Right.
Okay. So with humility, we need to actually proceed here and make big ticket investments, build a long view of time. Chinese are where they are with robotics today because they look 100, 200, 300 years in terms of planning cycle. In India, we have a planning cycle of 5 years.
Yeah.
In China, there's no such planning cycle. So we need to actually imagine what robotics will do, okay, to life and living, to national security, and we need to actually look at the multiplication of artificial intelligence with robotics and say, how does it impact everything else? Okay. At the same time, just as I caution against trivializing, I also caution against, the idea of unnecessary exuberance and the idea of getting worried about catching up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
Okay. So we need not worry about that. So that's my take broadly.
Sure.
The other thing that I would really, really think about is that, before I came into this talk, I was thinking about the next inflection point for India, and it's 2047. We are sitting at 2026. So today's 21-year-old will be a mid-career individual.
Right.
In 2047, okay?
Yeah.
The child being born today in 2026 will be a 21-year-old, okay? So we need to build tomorrow keeping in mind these stakeholders and think about the world that they will inherit. And if we look at that long view of time, we'll not get a second chance, by the way, with this.
In an interview, Sam Altman was asked this question, what advice do you have for young people? He said, don't listen to old people.
Yeah.
Right? Because the world is changing so fast and lessons from the past may not be applicable that much.
I think moving forward, I think that's probably one of the last questions for today's conversation with you. But we could have gone on and on, but I think the question is more about in this whole AI era, now when AI, like Rajiv also said, they are becoming more human. We always looked at the moral compass more from the human centricity. And I think in India today, one of our big questions would be now how AI will change things for good, which of course, like we spoke, be it education, healthcare, manufacturing, there are many areas where we do clearly see value, provided we think long, but we also measure some of these impacts and outcomes in short to medium term. But I think the bigger challenge here would continue to be on AI governance, cross-border collaboration. Of course, in the internet and technology era, we ended up using a lot of technology that was not built here, and then we had these conversations around the sovereignty, the geopolitical risk around, be it the chip, be it the AI models, the security, can these be weaponized? So how should one be thinking, especially from the fairness, ethics, and safety around AI?
So this is a complex question, and it presents itself with many dimensions. So in brief, I must tell you what occurs to me as somebody impacted by technology, somebody will use technology, somebody who has risks associated with technology. It occurs to me for the first time in my life that I have to increasingly believe that I am responsible. The government is no longer responsible for me. We talk about guardrails. No government can create the ultimate guardrail that I can create. Everybody talks about privacy. Used to talk about privacy. Interestingly, last couple of years, nobody's talking about privacy.
We've given up, I think.
Given up, conceded,
Yep.
realized the futility of it. Okay. The best way that you can have privacy is you don't do anything that will actually create public humiliation. Your private act should not create public embarrassment. Then you don't need to worry about your digital footprint, etc., etc. Okay. So today, more than the sovereign, the individual will have to assume responsibility. Easier said than done. People like us probably will be able to do it, if at all, a little better. But our responsibility has to go down to people below us, people who do not understand technology, to actually educate them, to take them along. At one level, people talk about sovereignty and talk about government. I think governments are, for the first time, realizing how exposed they are, how fragile they are, right? So whether it is in terms of the positives of AI or the negatives of AI, right? Everybody's susceptible. While the government, here the governments have to be far more enlightened. They need to rise above bipartisan view of things. Governments, policymakers, politicians, more than anybody else, will have to actually work with wisdom and with humanity, and continuously think about the use case. The moment we do that, then we will choose the right over the convenient. But as a citizen, as an individual, I cannot wait for Davos to show me the path. I cannot wait for the government to show me the path. I have to be cautious. I have to protect myself. COVID got forgotten so quickly, and we are busy with fighting Gaza, and we are fighting the Ukraine war, and we are throwing sanctions, and we are got into state terrorism has taken a altogether new meaning, as if COVID didn't exist.
Yeah.
What did COVID tell us? COVID said, wear your mask and wash your hands. So question is, in the light of the possible negative outcomes, okay, you have to wear your mask and wash your own hands.
Wow.
Well said.
Wow.
I think awareness to the citizens, I know it's a long game. Enterprises, government, I think everybody, question is probably it's a much deeper topic, and I fully subscribe to that. But I think idea through this conversation was to get people to think about it. How are we thinking from risk, governance, safety, biases, and challenges that is...
Wear the mask and pass on a mask.
Yeah, because there is still a big unknown.
And keep the hand sanitizers around.
So well said, and great conversation. We have just started a new ritual, Subroto, on our show. And on the clearing the blood, before you leave, if you have to ask a question that we should ask on your behalf to the next guest on our show, what would that be? Any question that comes to your mind that you think?
The question that comes to my mind is, please ask the guest this question: what matters most?
Wow.
Yeah, what matters most?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Fantastic conversation, Subroto. Thank you so much for the stories, the wisdom, and above all, the inspiration. Quite a lot of takeaways for me sitting here and listening to the vast expanse of your experiences, starting from entrepreneurship to your IT stint, to founding Mindtree and your stint with the government. And of course, alongside, you've managed to write so many books. My first introduction to you happened through your books, 𝗿𝗲𝗪𝗁, 𝗿𝗟, and I've been following you for a pretty long time, which clearly shows the excitement I have about this conversation. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and really, really inspiring stuff. So practically, what I'm going to think about is intended purpose. I think that stays with me. Asking that question clarifies quite a lot in terms of usage of resources, and ethics and other things, fall in place when you start off with that question. And the other big takeaway is, even I am guilty of using the word adoption quite a lot when it comes to technology, but I think you've clarified that with AI, it's not adoption anymore, it's dispersion, it's here and now. Are you going to embrace it or not? I think those are great points and great clarity it has provided me. So thank you so much for this.
No, absolutely, Rajiv. I think Subroto just didn't talk about building companies, but I think what I love the most is about building a strong moral compass.
Yeah.
The value of culture and ethics, especially when there is so much of noise and chaos around. What can hold you on the ground and hold you steady? And I think the noises will keep coming around us, but I think building sound, both as an individual and as a professional, I think the character is what truly stands apart. And especially, I think also your journey away from here to 3,000 kilometers, seeing how the real India or Bharat lives, what are the challenges in their life, and even some of these large technology conversations that we have, if it can impact the life of that citizen.
I was the chief spokesperson for the government during COVID, and COVID was raging. This is the time between the first wave and second wave. Every day, my job was to stand in front of a bevy of camera and speak for 30 minutes to the people of Odisha on what's going on. And these are days of the lockdown, complete chaos. You have only so much information. You have only so much knowledge on the subject. You can't mislead. You are talking on behalf of the government there. And some days, there was chaos. My house, government quarter, was next to the government hospital, as I was telling you.
Yeah.
All day you hear, every time an ambulance siren, went off, and your heart has palpitation. Supply chain issues, food issues, quarantine, this and that and everything. And you have to stand and look composed in front of the camera. So it was difficult days. One day, I was telling my daughter, my older daughter Neha, I said, so much chaos, okay? So she gently told me, she said, Dad, your job is to float over the chaos.
Right.
Okay? So my job as a leader has to be to float above chaos. Only then I'll be able to give comfort, show the direction, build purpose, take people along.
Be the mountain, let the clouds pass. Awesome.
So powerful. I think this conversation could have gone on and on, frankly. Not that we wanted to cut anything, but I think you have wealth of experience and what you have done and stories. We tried capturing whatever we could capture, of course, given the time constraints that we had. But thank you once again.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you, and thank all the viewers. It's been an absolute pleasure.